Hi, and welcome to the Medicine Mermaids podcast, stories of womb, water, and womanhood. We are your hosts, Naomi Maharaj and Naomi Ring. And yes, we're both named Naomi. Double the Naomi, double the trouble. In this podcast, we're here to share real stories on all things women's health, embodied spirituality, and ancient feminine mysticism. We value authentic sovereign expression, and our greatest hope with this podcast is to awaken the unique medicine that lives within each of you. In today's episode, we will be diving into the throat chakra and the medicine of self expression, our siren song, and what it means to move through the gateway of the unknown with faith. And now to introduce ourselves.
I'm Naomi Maharaj, a women's holistic health practitioner devoted to guiding women on the path of self reclamation and embodied sovereignty. My work weaves together body image healing, womb care, and female health through modalities like clinical herbalism, holistic pelvic care, and subconscious reprogramming. I support women in remembering the divine beauty that they are and attuning to the deep wisdom and medicine within their flesh.
And I'm Naomi Ring, an integrative somatic healer and astrologer, supporting women to embody their wholeness and root into who they truly are. My main tools are evolutionary astrology, family constellations and trauma healing, and the Akashic Records. I integrate ancient practices, devotional dance, and subconscious reprogramming to guide women on their journeys home.
Welcome to our very first episode of the Medicine Mermaids podcast. We're so grateful that you're here with us today. And it's so fun that we are starting this podcast with this topic of the throat chakra. And there's a very specific reason for that. Naomi and I, for a long time, we've been working in the back end of weaving our businesses together and thinking of different beautiful projects and portals to create for women like you. But something that we've noticed is that we have gotten into this pattern of planning our projects for the future and waiting for these projects to be perfect, waiting for us to have all of the pieces aligned, right, for it to be professional and making sure we have all of these things in place before we can do the thing and before we can share our medicine. And a few weeks ago, Naomi and I noticed that our energy was feeling a little stuck, right? And there was something that was just not quite aligning. And piecing it together, we realized, well, it's because we're waiting to be perfect and we're planning too far in the future. But what is it that we have here for us now? And so here we are on this topic of the throat chakra, finally giving ourselves permission to not be perfect, to not have everything all ready and professional and have all the trademarks and have all the contracts and have everything be perfect, right? We're here to just speak. Our medicine wants to be shared, and we've noticed that the more we hold it in, the less that we actually share. And so this episode is a spell for you listener, in devotion to your authentic self expression and your authentic throat liberation. Because too many women carry the stories of I'm too much, I'm too loud, I'm too emotional, I don't have anything important to say, I'm too opinionated, I'm too this, I'm too that. And historically, women's voices have been suppressed, we've been silenced, we've been burned at the stake, we've been punished for speaking our truth and for speaking magic into this world. And so this episode is an ode to all of those women who maybe feel disconnected to their voice or don't know what it is they exactly want to say or don't feel safe saying what they really want to say.
I agree. And I think there are moments in our life where we maybe go through a period of that feeling fear of being judged because at the core of our beings we always want to be loved and belong, and any threat to our belonging, right, this like feeling of we're going to be rejected, um we're going to be judged, burned at the stake, isolated, someone's going to criticize us, or just the
Canceled. Get canceled.
get canceled in today's culture. I think it creates immense pressure on our throat chakras and on our self expression. There's just so many things to say as well. I think for me, one of my challenges has been I have many things to say and I don't even know where to start, right? And then every time it just like it gets bigger and bigger, bigger and bitter. That's the subconscious revealing itself. But it is because it's being stored and kept down and like forced to be swallowed, and there's no outlet to our expression. I think that leads to depression for a lot
Yeah.
of us. And it's very sad, I think, in the end of the day, when our throat chakras are in a way stuck. I never have liked this. I have studied in the past um, energy counseling and chakra, readings, and so I am very familiarized with the chakra system. And many people used to come to me and say like, "Are my chakras stuck? Right? Are they blocked?" And I've never liked this concept because I believe that there is always some kind of flow, even if there can be some kinks in the hose, even if there can be, a little fine tuning that we need. But yeah, the energy sometimes does, kind of become a little stagnant. I like to use the word stagnant. And, in the end of the day, we do want to get familiarized with our fifth chakra because I believe it holds um a great potential for us, and there's a lot there you know um to go into, to dive into. So I'm going to share a bit about it. And yeah, something I like to teach always for our listeners, if you look at this video, you'll see me kind of showing in the throat. We have 5 rings around our throat chakra, and in each ring, it's a representation of one of the lower chakras. So there's like the lower ring. The first ring is like our first chakra. The second, right? The third belonging to the third, and the fourth to the heart, and so on. And for someone who doesn't know, the first chakra symbolizes our roots, right? The grounding, it's red. It's like sexual primal energy, it's safety. Our second chakra is very emotional, orangey. It's that sensuality. It's softer, it's slower, it's watery. Then we have our third chakra, which is very fiery. It's our will. It's like this: I am here. I have the right to be here. And it's our solar plexus energy. And our fourth chakra is our heart, green, this like forest of love, unconditional love and support. And then comes our fifth chakra, right? Blue, and its expression, and it's like this lightness, airy. Well, airy is more the heart, but the fifth is almost, I would say, like an alchemy. And why I mentioned the others is because the each one is like a stepping stone. They're all supporting, right? When we are tuning in to each one of these, it supports us to then bring our expression out into the world. Now, I mentioned the rings because each one of those rings that we have in our fifth chakra, those 5 rings, are representing, right, the chakras from the fifth and below, and they're holding a memory, a sound memory. It's like the hard drive of our system, of all the things we've ever heard, of all the things someone has ever said to us. It could be parents, it could be friends, it could be teachers, it could be neighbors, right? And it could be even things that have not been said to us. And it can be even before we were even born, like in our mom's bellies. And these things we heard make up our beliefs, our belief system. And this is important because I really believe that these belief systems, which I like to call, and I've learned also from my teacher, the known, right? Because our beliefs, it's what we know, it's the safe. These really influence us on our day to day, on how we express ourselves, what we say, and the sound of our voice, how it comes out, right? How maybe these beliefs that are in our subconscious deeply and sitting here are affecting our capacity to be open to real, raw, authentic expression. And a lot of our expression can be influenced, right, by factors like our emotions and even our cycles. We were speaking about this before. For women, right? Every part of our cycle brings a different sound of our voice. Sometimes our voices sound lower, right? They're deeper, and sometimes they're higher pitched. You can notice it when you're bleeding, when you're ovulating, what's happening to the sound of your voice. And I've noticed this through singing. I realize I can reach, right, like some lower notes or some higher notes in different parts of my cycle too. And, we all know this feeling when we're super excited and suddenly our throats are closing, or when we're crying and like our emotional inner world shifts the sound of our voice, and we're always emitting some kind of frequency through our voice. And so a lot of these things are going to tie together for you as you continue listening, but I'm going to pass on the mic to Naomi, and just say that these changes are just very normal, and it's something that we want to get familiarized with, as well as what are those beliefs. And later on, I'll tie again more about the fifth chakra and why we want to get familiarized with our beliefs, because it leads also to our healing and to us releasing these, I guess, limiting beliefs, so that we can step into the unknown and into this portal of possibilities and freedom.
Hmm. Yeah, what's coming up for me as you speak is how our throats have so much to do with our authentic alignment with our integrity. When I close my eyes and I visualize the throat chakra, I almost see it as if it were like this pillar, this turquoise pillar running through the center of my body. And in this era that we live in, where almost everyone can have access to a voice and type a comment, say what they want to say, share a story, post a reel, whatever it is, right? I think it's very easy. I find myself feeling this often. Oh, well, there's so many voices out there, right? There's so many incredible healers, women talking on similar subjects to me. I'm just getting drowned out. I'm just getting diluted out. And I've had to realize, where have I not been fully authentic? Maybe where am I recycling or taking other people's words and not being fully authentic with my own unique expression? Because I really believe that when we're authentic with our heart of hearts, speaking our soul's medicine, right? And we put it out to the world, it's operating at a unique frequency. And we're going to talk about that in a second, right? The frequency of our voice is magical, it's magnetic. And the sirens, the mermaids, are really good at helping us realize that. So this fear, or this limiting belief story, I guess we can call it, of, oh, well, what's the point? What's the point of sharing my medicine online if there's so many incredible voices out there? I'm just getting drowned out. This is where we return to the authentic alignment. When I'm speaking my divine truth, my medicine will reach the people that it's supposed to, the mermaids that it's supposed to. And where am I distorting my truth? Where am I maybe using someone else's words? Where am I maybe plagiarizing someone, right? Where am I maybe not actually in my full alignment because I want to protect my reputation or protect what other people will think of me? I had to recently block all of my family members on social media, not because I don't want them to be seeing my medicine, but because on some level they're still inhibiting the fullness of my authenticity. And I just accepted that. And I invite anyone to do that if that will align with you. But yeah, I really have been learning to connect with that authenticity, and I think it's starting to finally bloom through. So,
That's That's incredibly hard, I think, for some of us to block our family members, but so important. I agree. I agree. Many times, I think the thoughts of what are others going to think is something that stops a lot of us from
yeah.
expressing. Why don't we have the same right as anyone else? Like, what if I did stand strong with what I believe in? And of course, there can be repercussions to that, but I think the point you made about it, when we speak our authentic truth, it's going to attract those who align with us. I think that is very comforting for me. And after, I'm almost 30 now. I think when I was younger, that could have felt threatening to maybe not please everyone with my voice. But now it's like, well, maybe I don't want to please everyone, because I
Mhm.
rather stand with what I believe in. So it's also a lot about what we value, right? And getting to know ourselves, the familiarity.
Yeah. Yeah. Divine authenticity in our voice is directly opposed to the people pleaser within us all, right?
And it's a journey to get there, because I think one thing I want to normalize is the waves that we go through. Even you and I being the practitioners that we are, right? Being the healers that we are, being able to support others, we can still go through our challenges. And I think that's something that's needs to be normalized, that we have periods in time where we might want to hide more, where wounds are surfacing, where maybe our throat chakra doesn't feel open. But I'm incredibly happy to witness today our first episode as we're recording it, because I know it's like a timestamp of our journey, and we're gonna get to look back at this and realize where we've been, and where we are. And I think that's always beautiful, right? The journey
Yeah.
that we make, with all its loops and spirals and waves and ups and downs. And it's really supporting us, and part of you know developing into that authenticity that we can bring.
Totally. And I think our early childhood experiences have such a huge role, right? We were talking a bit before about the things that we've each experienced and how similar they are, and how I think so many mermaids out there have experienced similar things. Just watched The Little Mermaid as children and just felt so in love with Ariel and the story of her siren song, and then maybe cast our song out and we've recoiled because we received some validation that our voice was ugly, that it wasn't good enough, that it wasn't beautiful. For myself, I remember in the second grade, I ended up singing in front of our entire choir, or our entire music class, and I sang in front of 20 of my classmates because I wanted to join the Cool Cats. The name of our choir group was called the Cool Cats. And little 7-year-old, 8-year-old me went and sang Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog in front of all of these people. And I'm like, what a brave little soul, to do that. I didn't care then what people thought or if my song was good. I just wanted to sing and I wanted to join the Cool Cats. I sang the song, and afterwards, Mr. Malone, who was the choir teacher, he said, "Oh, thank you. Maybe try again next year." And I just internalized this I'm not good enough that I'd never heard before. And ever since then, I focused on other areas. I focused on dance, I focused on art because I was validated that I was good in those things. But I went through all of my childhood saying, well, I just can't sing. What's the point of pursuing music if I can't sing? Because I was interested in piano, I was interested in the guitar, but I said, well, I'm not a singer. Mr. Malone told me I wasn't. And that was so heartbreaking. And the funny thing is, Ariana Grande, she lived in the same city. She grew up in the same city as I did. She went to the same school I did. She also tried out for choir, tried out for Cool Cats, and Mr. Malone denied her too. And years later, when she was famous and is everything that she was interviewed and she called him out. She said, "Well, look at where I am now, Mr. Malone. Look at who's the actual singer here." And so I feel like that story is just a testament to one, Mr. Malone being like horrible at choosing singers for choir, and two, just a testament to how when we overcome those childhood blocks around our voice, like what's actually possible, right?
100%. I First of all, I resonate deeply with what you said, because I also had my own, like, I was in fifth grade, so I was maybe like 11 by then. But all my friends were in the choir. And one day, the teacher, I don't remember her name, maybe that's for the best. She was like, "Who wants to try out?" And we had to sing, If I Had the Wings of a Dove. I don't know what the name of the song is, but I know that it had a moment where it goes very high, like, "I would fly away." And I was like terrified, because my voice wasn't, even today, like, I learned that we can be a soul singer, and that's okay. I don't have to be perfect at it for me to be allowed to sing. But I know that my voice has its like limitations, if we're gonna look at it. I'm not an Ariana Grande, but yeah, it was very heartbreaking in that moment to be told that I'm not good enough. And and that I can't join this community, this school choir, because I think as a child all I wanted was to express and dance, and I was already in acting and dancing, and me too. I kept on focusing on that, but like singing was just something that always called to me, and I've always been, the shower singer, as many of us are, and the car singer, and I love karaoke, and I always daydream about this, and I think that something in me kind of crumbled that day a bit, and felt, that like it, you store that, like I said in the rings, you store my voice is not good enough. Or if my brother ever told me I'm annoying, your voice is so annoying. We having at some point this, like, we're growing up, and our voices are changing, and when we're children sometimes we're more squeaky, and if you have a teenage brother who's 5 years older than you, at some point he's gonna tell you that your voice is so annoying. I'm sure that happened to many of us, and that, you store that too, and you grow up believing your voice is annoying. And for me, the beautiful, beautiful thing is that, a I think the universe, I believe it loves all of us, but I really know it loves me because I have had many people come to me to share with me how they feel my voice is so soothing and calming, and it's so lovely, and people love to listen to me. And it's not going to be everyone's like feeling towards me, but having heard that really healed me. And
Mhm.
also the fact that I gave myself permission after hearing my yoga teacher when I was 21 say that we can be soul singers, and her voice was, I love her, mwah. But I was like, she's totally right. And at some point, I remember I made myself a shamanic drum because I really wanted to drum and sing, and I started just singing and practicing with myself. And at that point, I was like teaching awakening movement classes, mixing yoga and twerk and dance and African dance and all the belly dance, whatever, into my classes. And I started bringing my drum, and I started kind of going like humming and using subtle sounds. And with this kind of expression and exploration, I reconnected to my voice and reclaimed it, and realized like it is beautiful in its own way. It has its own frequency, it has something to offer, and I really believe that everyone's voice has something to offer, you know
Totally. And I had a similar experience with your shamanic drum when that experience with Mr. Malone and Jeremiah was a bullfrog. I was about 6 or 7, 8 years old. And then when I went to university for my first year, I joined capoeira, which is an Afro-Brazilian martial arts, and I joined this group at my university. And for those who don't know, a big part of capoeira is the singing. It's these songs that have been transmitted orally for generations from slaves that were brought from Africa. And I started singing these songs in groups, right? There would be groups of us of 15 to 20 of us, and we'd be singing, and there's all these different beautiful instruments, the berimbau, the atabaque, the agogo. And so you can sing and kind of be drowned out by everyone else. And that was the first time that I really began to sing ever since that one time in second grade. And I started to hear my voice for the first time. And I said, well, actually, my voice is actually quite beautiful. I don't aspire to be a famous singer or anything, but there's something here. And it was so healing to hear my voice. And I even had friends of mine saying, Naomi, like, your voice is really beautiful. And so that was the first time I heard my own voice as medicine, because those early experiences that we shared about were so much of the experience that I think so many people have that distorts our understanding of our voice is performance. You sing for validation, you sing to be beautiful. But what you were saying about being a soul singer, it's like, I am a singer in my heart and in my soul. Whether or not I came into this body with like attuned vocal cords, it doesn't really matter. I came here to sing, whether it's to the trees, whether it's to my husband and my children, whether it's to an audience of 1,000 people. I came here to sing, whether you like it or not. And what we've, I guess, both experienced kind of separately is this shift in our relationship to voice, as voice not as performance, but voice as medicine. Voice as our tuning fork, right? Like our connection to our unique frequency, our medicine, right? I know you have a lot to share on that.
all I have to say is, we, for sure, I know that throughout our journeys, we somehow both found that our voice is our medicine, and we both connect to how much it also self-regulates our, like, soothes our nervous system, right? Like things like that, like just emitting our subtle sounds in the day to day, allowing ourselves to express regardless of if it's beautiful or not, if it, if we're going to receive recognition or not. I think that's something important for so many people. I have like a friend who, in my classes, she would come and she was always so ashamed because she heard all of these things that we too heard. She was never even allowing herself to even go like, like just even a sigh, like, and I think for so many of us, we store a lot of like subtle sounds, and subtle sounds, but what I mean by that is these sighs. It's like the when you're eating something yummy. It's any kind of sound that, sometimes I think I think for all of us, it's so soothing to sing to ourselves, even if it's just a hum. And I think if someone out there is listening to this and has never tried it, I really encourage you to try it. Like, I want to say, when I have had period pain, which I'm sure many women have experienced, like just humming to myself and releasing the pain through sound has been incredibly supportive and healing, and like releasing tension. So I think that's also one of our points, very strong points, that how much of a medicine it is. And the only other thing I'll say is that our voice is really a key. And I didn't know how much until I studied the Akashic Records, and I heard my teacher tell us that in order to open our records, we need to say our full birth name with the same, like, sound, the same enunciation,
Pronunciation.
pronouncing it just as our parents gave it to us. So, for example, we're both named Naomi, but I was born in Argentina, and my parents called me Naomi. And Naomi and Naomi are the same name, but they have a different, it sounds different. And my full name, Naomi Judith Ring. So this is my key. This is the frequency that opens my Akashic records, and I found that to be so touching and so beautiful, and a testament of how much of, like, I can't even put words to this, it's just sounds hold vibration. It ripples. It's a key. It opens and closes, and it creates, right? Even in the Hebrew language and in Arabic and Aramaic, there's this word we many of us know, abracadabra. I create as I speak, right? All these sounds we're emitting, or like the Egyptians, they used to, many people believe different stories of how the pyramids were created, or how many of these, like, very amazing, like, landscapes that are like, how did humans make this? And it's like, I really believe in the theory of it was all sound and vibration, the technology of frequency, and we carry that within us.
Totally. And the mermaids know it all.
So, giving back the mic to you, our mermaid. Like, I don't know. To me, Naomi is like the mermaid, like, connoisseur.
Well, I don't know about that. I think there's a lot of incredible mermaids out there that I learned from as we put the puzzle pieces back together and are remembering. But I think before we get into the mermaids, I just wanted to say on that topic of our voices. Yeah, I think when we think of the throat chakra and connecting with our song, we tend to think of singing, right? Or we tend to think of moaning and making the subtle sounds like you were talking about. But what you were just saying is just saying our name at the frequency and in the correct pronunciation, right? That unlocks something. Just our voice speaking to ourselves unlocks something. For the last few years, something that I've been doing a lot in my healing and in my deprogramming and nervous system regulation practice has just been speaking to myself. It started as speaking to my inner child, and now it's evolved into speaking to my symptoms and speaking to the different voices within me and different parents within me And so it's just evolved beautifully. And there's something so soothing about that, of just hearing yourself speak to yourself. I'm a words of affirmation love language woman. Gemini, Sun, and Mercury in Gemini. Like, I'm all about the throat. I'm all about communication. But I don't think there's any voice that is more transformative to me than my own. And it's been so many years. It feels so duh, it's like obviously, but that's not something that we, I guess, learn, right? It's something that we have to learn in our own. Yeah.
100.
Yeah, and another thing too, and we both understand this being kind of third culture mermaids, where we have multiple different cultures that make up who we are and languages that have shaped our beings. When I speak English, it's a very different Naomi to the Naomi who speaks Portuguese, right? She carries a different frequency, and I'm so grateful to have been blessed with languages and to have grown up pursuing linguistics and French at university. And so I've been blessed with language, and it's so fun to see how we can shapeshift. Our voices are also portals, right? They allow us to shapeshift and to play. One of my favorite comedians is Trevor Noah, and one of the things that I most love about him is the fact that he can do probably any accent out there. He can do the Trinidadian accent, the Indian accent, the every accent. And it's so fun because I feel like we can just tune into different people. And he does something, he says, when he goes to travel, because he travels a lot for his work. And what he does is he'll just play a game where he'll be in a foreign country and he'll speak a different language and see how long he can go before someone calls him out on in speaking a different language or a different accent. And I love that. Like, I wish that I could do accents. I'm horrible at accents. I think I'm good at languages, but I'm horrible at accents. But I have always loved that. Maybe it's also the Gemini within me, but it's so fun to be able to hear ourselves in different languages. And if you don't speak more than one language, I highly recommend playing with even just speaking gibberish, just speaking gibberish, speaking a language that doesn't exist, but getting out of the mind of the language that you know and just seeing what unlocks for you.
I agree. And I have to say I have a similar experience, but so here's the funny thing, right? So I speak Spanish, English, Hebrew, a bit of Portuguese, and a bit of Italian. And when I speak Spanish, and maybe this is due because I moved to many countries as a child, and I lived in different like Spanish speaking countries, right? In Chile, in Argentina, in Uruguay, they speak with different, slightly different accents, but I also have had many Mexican friends, Colombian friends growing up, and even Cuban friends. And once I left Argentina at the age of 6, I started adapting my Spanish pronunciation to whoever I was speaking with. It was crazy. My family, my brother and my mom and my dad, they never, I guess my dad maybe admired it. I'm happy he could, but like my mom and my brother couldn't get it. They didn't understand why. I couldn't. They thought it was like an identity thing where I don't want to be Argentinian, so like I'm rejecting the accent, but it was more of like I couldn't help. I didn't even think about it. I was just mimicking, and it was bringing out a different side of me, and until this day I speak as a Mexican when I'm with Mexicans, and I've been in Mexico and they were sure I'm Mexican, or I'm like, I'm speaking as it's, I totally agree with how it brings different aspects of ourselves. And I think that's really beautiful to explore in that. And because that is part of our expression in the end of the day, that
Mhm.
part of like that freedom of like what happens when we step out of the known, and just kind of like who do we become, how do things shift, and it connects back to the mermaids that we are shapeshifters. And I think it's within many of us to have that kind of adaptability, um and it brings an immense freedom. It's very fun as well, and I think a part of our expression is that it should be fun, right? Tying it back to why we decided to finally start recording this podcast is because I think we both just kind of overall said like we want to have the fun now. We don't want to plan the fun. We want to enjoy it now and finally liberate our voices and bring whatever is here in the moment, because it will change. Even if we structure it, even if we plan it, we will evolve anyways at some point. We might even have gotten there and completely have changed it. And so it's a shame when we're kind of not like dropping into that moment, because I do love structure and I believe we need it and we have to honor it. And at the same time, how much can we, how long will we repress our own voices, right?
Right.
That perfection and yeah, I don't know. I think it all ties together very beautifully.
Yeah, and I think there's something mystical about the voice too, right? There's a reason why the throat isn't like down here in our belly buttons, right? There's a reason why our voice is above the heart and kind of the upper chakras, right? Where it's more connected to the element of air and the element of ether, right? There's something mystical about it. I think we attach our voice so much to this body and to the language that you grew up with and with this incarnation, but I see a lot of things like light language happening and even, gibberish. It's an opportunity for us to kind of use our voice and move out of our bodies and explore different shape shift and experience other parts of ourselves, other beings, other soul passages, right? So I think that's something to explore, right?
Definitely agree. And I think it really, it can be scary. I'll tie this back now to the fifth chakra part that I mentioned that I would come back to. I mentioned the known, right? In the rings, which is our beliefs and what we're used to and what's comfortable and what's kind of like, I guess, tangible because it's maybe what we grew up with, whatever. In the center of our fifth chakra, we have the space of the unknown. And this is a rich space, right? Where, like we've mentioned already, there's so much potential there that we can like tap into, and where I believe our true authenticity comes from. Because this is a quote I've loved since I was 15. We're under no obligation to be the same person we were 5 minutes ago, right? Like
Mhm.
there's something about ourselves. I always believe we're constantly changing, right? Change is the only constant. Like there's something that's constantly evolving, and I believe our voices is one of those things that just, as I mentioned before, the cycles bring these shifts. It's in a constant evolution. You can, the more you embody your truth and your sound, you can hear your voice almost grounding, like it's like you're grounding into your voice, and yeah, I think what's possible is endless, it's infinite when we connect to the unknown, and that requires immense faith. And I wanted to share a few words. I wrote like a little poem before we started this, about faith, because faith, I believe, is not the absence of fear or doubt, and it's not blind belief either. It's a knowing that rises silently within us when we surrender and when we least expect it. It's it's faith is it might visit us in the deepest well of our grief and in the darkest night of our souls. But when it's there, it can't really leave. Maybe it's overshadowed for a moment, but moments never last forever. And sometimes we have to let go in order to keep on holding on. So I believe that finding our faith supports us into stepping into that unknown wholeheartedly. And because as you mentioned in a moment as well, and maybe not, maybe I'm just adding this now basically, but I did mention in the beginning, all the chakras are kind of like stepping stones for like supporting each other. And the one that we really need for our throats to open is also the heart. Obviously, and all the ones below that support the heart so that the heart can support the throat. But the having that faith is usually found in the heart. That openness, that unconditional love and support that we can have within ourselves, that then brings the capacity to go beyond to go beyond the known and stepping into that unknown to bring that authentic expression out, allowing ourselves to evolve, to change, to discover. And I believe that's what expression is also about, kind of flowing in that moment. And there's things that are precious because they're flowing in a moment, and can't be necessarily always planned. And I believe our voice is a gateway for that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And so I think we can move into the final piece of this podcast before we wrap up this episode, which is bringing in the siren song. We've touched on the mermaids a little bit throughout this call, but we wanted to bring in the archetype of the siren. And what's interesting is that across time and across culture, we've seen stories of the mermaids. And something that is very common and in these stories is the story of the mermaid having immense healing powers, her having immense shape-shifting abilities, her granting gifts. But what we mostly know because of thanks to Disney and The Little Mermaid is the siren song, the voice of the mermaid. And like we said earlier, so many of us mermaids, we go through our early childhoods and we have some sort of experience that freezes our voice and we don't feel connected to it. But I think it goes even beyond that, right? I think we even see with the story of the siren, right? How the siren is this dangerous mermaid who lives out at sea and she lures sailors to their untimely deaths. And the story is that this powerful siren who has a magnetic, enchanting voice, she kills men, right? And that's, I believe, and I know a lot of us here listening believe that a lot of the stories that are rooted in ancient feminine traditions have been distorted and reframed from a patriarchal lens. So a siren who is powerful and maybe is even offering healing, not trying to lure men to their deaths, but maybe she's offering healing, has now been cast as dangerous, evil, a monster. And I think that that kind of energy, that belief has also somehow been weaved into our throat chakras, right? You were talking about the five rings and the belief systems that we hold. Women, I believe, on an unconscious, collective unconscious level, have absorbed this story of staying silent, and this trope of the siren, of the mermaid, also is weaved in there. And so I think what we can take away is that when we connect to our voice, our frequency, our tuning fork, our song, our medicine, right? This is us reclaiming the siren. We're powerful sirens of love, of light, of healing. We wish to share our song, not to manipulate, not to kill, not to lure men to their deaths, but to make ourselves known because we have so much medicine to offer. We're powerful beings, right? And we're silencing, we're destroying that trope of the dangerous, manipulative siren. So I think we can shift from the voice being something that's a performance into voice being a tuning fork and a key, into our voice being our medicine and our ability to do deep spiritual, if we want to call it spiritual work, it being our compass, it being an ability for us to place our voice into the void, into the unknown, into the grid, and to help others, right? To help heal others, to help recreate this world that's crumbling around us. The world needs our voice. The world needs our medicine, our frequency, right? Or else we wouldn't be here.
We create with our voices and we can heal with our voices. And I think in the end of the day, what we each need is to, find that faith to take us through the journey of getting familiar with those known pieces, with those beliefs that keep us limited from that potential of the unknown, right? And then where we can actually then step through that threshold and share with the world all our gifts, all that medicine that each one of us carries, where we can connect, build bridges, interact through languages, through song, through words, through any kind of expression. It all ties back to the throat chakra, and it all ties back to the medicine mermaid's blessings, right? Like all mermaids, all sirens are giving us their blessing right now, and they're saying, speak, my child, open up, right? Allow it through, discover what's already within you. And yeah, I believe each theme we brought here today is just there to kind of, we're trying to weave it together to give this picture to show how important, basically, in the end of the day, our voices are, right? The key, it is the frequency it has, the tool, the magic that can be found within it.
Yeah, and we've talked a bunch about this, but how I feel that mermaid energy, mermaid consciousness, whatever we want to call it, is really spreading. I don't know if it's because of the algorithm or because I myself I'm now seeing mermaids everywhere because I'm connecting with the mermaid. But people that I followed for many years, all of a sudden I'm seeing them talking about mermaids or sharing images of themselves in very mermaid-like ways or something along those lines. And I think there's something there. I really think that I connect with the mermaids on a more on a spiritual level, right? Etheric level. And I believe that they're coming in to share this, how important it is for us to be in authenticity and integrity to our voice. The world can no longer hold space for people who are not in authenticity to their voice, to their heart, and to everything beneath that, right? And they are such masters of the voice, masters of the song. And so I think they're dripping their codes, their wisdom for us really unconsciously. They whisper into our dreams and they connect with us, in such subtle ways. So yeah, I hope that you have taken so much away from this. Do you want to say something?
Wanted to call our mermaids home and just share how we are in a community building moment. And if you feel aligned with us, reach out, share with us your feedback or, questions if you have. And we actually hold also the Medicine Mermaid calls, our community calls. They're free and you can come and interact with us. They happen 8 times a year. And right now we're kind of like in the middle. We have 4 more to go. Our next call is going to be on, I believe, August 2nd. We'll put all the details down below in the description and also ways you can contact us. So we'd love to get to know you, and welcome you to our community.
Thank you so much. We'll see you in our next episode.
Ciao.